Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games. I'm Harry, and today I'll be continuing my top 50 games of all time. I'll be covering my numbers 20 through 16. In previous videos, I've been doing it in installations of 10 games per video. So I've done my 50 through 41, my 40 through 31, and my 30 through 21. However, I realized those videos were kind of long and probably hard to watch in one sitting. So I've decided to split my next couple of videos into installations of just 5. So I'll only be covering 5 games per video. So today, numbers 20 through 16, and let's not waste any more time. Starting with my number 20 game of all time, Race for the Galaxy, designed by Thomas Lehman and published by Rio Grande Games. I have lots of games that I like from Rio Grande Games. This is the only game in my top 50 designed by Thomas Lehman. Race for the Galaxy is a card game where you are building your tableau, basically the cards on your table in front of you that you have possession of. And you're trying to be the first to build 12 different cards, which represent different planets that you're conquering and different developments that you're establishing that help advance your technology within your empire. Really, what's interesting about this game, very similar to Puerto Rico, you're choosing an action, but here it's simultaneous. All players are choosing their actions simultaneously, and it's hidden, and then it's revealed, and then every player gets to benefit off all the actions that have been chosen. But if you have chosen the action yourself, then you get a special benefit from that action, this action selection mechanism, if you will. So this game is really quick. It's about 30 minutes once you get to learn it, once you figure it out. However, it suffers from a learning curve because the cards have lots of iconography. Instead of like many cards that just have lots of text to just explain things, Thomas Lehman found a way to work around that, and instead of having text, there is some text on the cards. It's mostly just icons and symbols that you need to interpret. So you have player aids in the rule book that you're constantly referring to just to try to establish and remember what the different symbols mean. That makes it a challenge, a bear to teach to other people. I have not been able to teach this to many people. I've only played this with 3 other people, but I am satisfied and content with 3 different people that I can play this game with. It's not a gateway game. It's not an introductory game. It's not a game that's for everybody. But for me, I enjoy it. I feel that it's a very meaty, substantial experience, and it's just a 30-minute experience. So it's filler in time, but it's crunchy enough and meaty enough and juicy enough that you could sink your teeth into it and you feel like you've played a more meaningful and longer game than what your typical filler feels like. So this is a great game for me. I do own a few expansions. I haven't really done too much with the expansions yet, except for the solo variant that one of the expansions introduces, and so far I've enjoyed even playing it solo. It's been a fun experience. The artificial intelligence in that solo variant is it's a very commendable foe. There's nothing, you do not have to hold back at all, and you truly feel like it's a challenge to even try to outscore this dummy player or this AI player. Again, really good game. I wouldn't recommend it if you're new to gaming, but if you've been into gaming at all for a while, this game is a must try, if not a must buy. It's my number 20 game of all time, Race for the Galaxy. Now we'll move on to my number 19 game of all time, and that is The Pursuit of Happiness, designed by David Chertkop and Adrian Abella, published by Stronghold and Artipia Games. This is a silly themed but very intricate worker placement game called Pursuit of Happiness. And this game is basically like the game of life in mass market world, but for gamers, for people who have embraced hobby gaming, designer gaming, and want something with more challenge and more meat. This game, now, it's for a worker placement game. It is not too heavy, not too complex. It's pretty simple, but again, it's meatier than your game of life type of experience. But at the same time, it gives you the good things about the game of life, which is just that role playing opportunity to just recreate your life in any direction you want to go. What career do you want to have? Who do you want to marry? What hobbies do you want to have? What events and activities you want to partake in? What, possessions do you want to own throughout the course of your life? How do you cope with stress? How do you cope with short-term happiness? How do you deal with old age? All these things are tackled in this game. It has a very cool resource conversion mechanism where you are acquiring different types of resources. Here, a social influence is a resource. Book knowledge is a resource. Creativity is a resource. Of course, money is a resource. Short-term happiness and stress, these are all resources you're trying to manage. And this game has different ways of converting one resource, perhaps your money, to benefit your creativity, or maybe your knowledge will help benefit your social influence, and you can convert these different resources at different rates and exchange them for other resources that currently will be helpful to what you're trying to accomplish on that current round. This game consists of typically 8 rounds, each round representing a decade of your life. However, the stress that you accrue throughout the game by making some very difficult decisions, but necessary, just like in real life, that it shortens your lifespan to the point where 6 rounds is a more realistic time for the game. There is player elimination in this game because some players can manage stress a little bit better than others, and because of that, they might buy themselves another round or 2. However, there's no guarantee that because you lived a longer life, you lived a happier life. Again, kind of like the real world. So you want to find that right balance of managing your stress so you can live as long as possible, but at the same time, not doing it at the expense of your happiness, your short-term and long-term happiness, your quality of life, if you will. It's a brilliant game. It's a fun game. It's funny, it's silly, and at the same time, it's a little bit of a brain burner of a game. And again, many people would probably, freak out at me saying that. But again, I'm saying it has a lot of crucial, challenging decisions, a lot of number crunching when you're trying to realize what's the most optimal choice on the board for me at that time. It's really, really cool. You have this really interesting mechanism where your workers are represented by sand timers, and you can have more sand timers by working overtime, but that causes you stress. And as you get older, you have less time. You're occupied with your job or your significant other. This takes from your time. Therefore, you have less sand timers, less workers to put on the board and to activate their actions. Now, unlike many worker placement games where you have a blocking mechanism, you choosing a specific spot on the board blocks another opponent from choosing that spot. Instead, you kind of block yourself, because if you ever place a sand timer or a worker on a specific spot on the board, you cannot go to that same spot again on that same round unless you choose to take stress, which again is detrimental in this game. But perhaps that action is so worthwhile that you do want to take it a second time on the same round. It's a great game, and again, thematically just does a lot. The artwork is silly artwork. It's not really serious type artwork, but again, I think it kind of lends to the overall feel of the game, a silly, just laugh out loud type of experience. So that is my number 19 game of all time, The Pursuit of Happiness. Now we'll move on to my number 18 game of all time, and it is Seven Wonders Duel, designed by original Seven Wonders designer Antoine Bauza, and of course the other great designer Bruno Cathala, and published by Repos Games, same publisher as the original Seven Wonders. This is a two-player version of the Seven Wonders game, which is a popular card drafting game. Its namesake, 7. There are 7 wonders in the original base game. Up to 7 players can play. They each have a hand of 7 cards, and they pass it around and draft 1 card at a time and make these decisions as they try to build on their civilization. This is the same theme as a civilization themed game. There is card drafting taking place, but in order to accommodate the two-player scope of this game, the card drafting is done totally different. And I find that they found a creative way to make it still a tight, tense situation. I think, if anything, this game lends itself perhaps a little bit more to long-term planning than Seven Wonders, because you see all the cards, they're static, Some of them are hidden, some of them are revealed, but you can see some of the ones that are upcoming and kind of anticipate your turns one at a time, ahead of time. Unlike Seven Wonders, where at first you kind of are winging it, and as the game goes on, as the round goes on, you might have an inkling of what cards you might get back into your hand. If you're playing with a smaller player count, if you're playing with a larger player count, you might not get any cards back in your hand. This game gives you that long-term planning if you like that kind of thing. It also makes military a more viable strategic option than regular Seven Wonders, where if you invest too much in military, it might help you a little bit, but it's probably not going to help you win the game. Here, you invest in military and you might just knock out your opponent. You don't even need to outscore them. You just might straight up knock them out if you run over them militarily speaking. You also have science I find to be a challenging victory. You tell me otherwise if you've had success winning with the science strategy in this game. But it's still an option for you to try to win. And of course, just try to overall outscore your opponent by having the best civilization on the table. It's a great game. It's a tighter system for the two-player experience than the Seven Wonders two-player variant was. And that is my number 18 game of all time, Seven Wonders Duel. Now we move on to my number 17 game of all time, and that is Cuba, designed by Michael Renek and Stefan Sadler. This is published by Rio Grande Games, and guess what? This game is out of print, so you're gonna have to get some used copies if you want to play this game. Well, this game, I've said it before in previous videos. One of the reasons why this game is so special and important to me and in my family is because my wife was born in the nation of Cuba. So this is a Cuban-themed game. As you saw in an earlier list, Santiago de Cuba is also in my top 50 games of all time, ranked significantly higher than this. This is the mother to Santiago de Cuba. This is the game from where Santiago de Cuba stemmed off of. This is a bigger, fuller, more robust experience than Santiago de Cuba. You have a bigger board. You just have a lot more going on. Here, you are trying to first of all, there's a little bit of an element of worker placement. You have a field which is shaped like a grid, where you have different resources that you produce, and based on where you put your worker and where he lines up in the intersection of the column and the rows that he lines up with, he gets to activate those fields and produce the goods that are reaped in those parts of the field. However, as the game progresses, you get the opportunity to buy special buildings. I love games that let you buy different buildings. I don't know what it is about it, just the idea of building something, and that something produces different things or gives you different abilities that other persons might not have in the game. That is amazing. Here, as the game progresses, you're going to have to build these buildings on these parts of the field, thereby getting rid of those natural resources or those goods that those parts of the field produce for you. However, you'll benefit of whatever the building does for you. And now going forward, whenever you move your little worker there, your little laborer, again, everything that intersects with the spot that he's on the column and the row, you activate all those, whether it be parts of the field or whether it be buildings. And that is just one element of the game. You're trying to recruit all these resources to meet the demands of the different ships that are picking up cargo. And unlike Santiago de Cuba, where you only have one ship at a time and you're trying to meet its demands, here you always have 3 ships available. So you get to plan long term. One ship has a more valuable outcome, a more valuable payoff as far as victory points, because you're getting victory points for shipping these goods. The other ships have a lesser value, but hey, it's a consolation prize. It's a secondary option for you to consider, or for you to pursue. Also, you have a 4th ship that's at sea, but you know that it's going to eventually dock at the harbor. So again, you get to anticipate and look forward to planning and preparing for that ship. You're manipulating a resource market. There's a resource market that again goes by supply and demand. The more goods that are are at the market, the cheaper these goods cost. The less goods you find at the market, the more expensive they are. So even just manipulating that market is a challenge in and of itself. You also have a political phase at the end of each round where whoever played the higher cards or left the higher card unplayed, because you're choosing different character cards. You have 5 character cards. Whoever does not choose the more expensive or the more valuable character card at the end of the round has the most votes in Parliament. However, you could also add some money secretly in your hand to add to your votes that card contributed. And whoever has the most overall votes at the end of each round gets to enforce or pass 2 different bills and make them into laws. And these bills affect the way that scoring takes place between this round and the end of the next round. So again, you're going to try to pick laws that work to your favor and in favor of the goods and the resources that you possess. It has a lot of different elements to the game. It's pretty. The board, the artwork for the board is by none other than Michael Menzel, one of the best artists in the gaming industry. So the artwork looks good. The game mechanisms work well. This game, it's out of print. I think it's a little bit underrated. It's pretty decently ranked in on BoardGameGeek.com. I believe it's in the 500s, somewhere around there. But for whatever reason, people don't talk about it. Again, it's special to us because it has the namesake Cuba, and the gaming mechanisms work for me. I appreciate Michael Renek's design philosophy, the way he constructs games. I appreciate the product of his hands. And that is my number 17 game of all time, Cuba. And now the last game for this video, my number 16 game of all time. And this is a big box right here. And that is Cyclades or Kyklades. This is a Greek mythology themed game that includes combat, it includes resource management, it includes auction and bidding, it includes building different buildings, which I already mentioned is something that I appreciate. This game is designed by the duo of Bruno Cathala and Ludovic Mablanc, and it is published by Matago Games. This game came out in 2009, just over 10 years ago, and I just cannot say enough about this game. You have a map, a map of some of the Greek Isles, and you control a certain amount of troops with your fleets, your navy fleets, your naval fleets, and all your opponents control their troops and their naval fleets. And each round, you're making an offering or a bid to the different gods. And you have Poseidon in this game, and you have Zeus, and you have Ares, and you have Athena, and you have Apollo. And each of these gods give you a different benefit, a different power. They let you build a different type of building on the board. They let you do a specific thing on the board that benefits you differently than the other gods might. So again, it's all about which god am I going to choose, which god am I going to bid to this turn, and so on and so forth. And even the way you bid and who you bid for ends up determining the player order, right? Because the gods are lined up in a specific order. Whoever wins the rights to the first god in the lineup is going to go first. Whoever wins the rights to the last god in the lineup is going to go last. So even that is part of it. You're recruiting the help of different mythological creatures and monsters from all the ancient myths, and these different creatures help you in a different way. You're trying to be the first player to build 2 metropolises, or metropolis. You're trying to be the first player to build 2 different metropolis, and you do that by 2 different ways. You either build each of the 4 different types of buildings, and that earns you a metropolis. Repeat it and do it again, and you'll have a second metropolis. Or you can turn in 4 philosopher cards, which you acquire by winning the favor of the goddess Athena. And once you get 4 philosopher cards, you could turn them in for a metropolis. Again, you could repeat the process. Also, there's combat in this game. So you can just defeat one of your opponents on one of their islands, and if they have a metropolis on that island, that metropolis is now yours. Now, while combat does exist in this game, it's not the only viable way to victory. You can build your way to victory. You can just have a more prosperous civilization. You can just manipulate the favor of the gods to your advantage in a better way than your opponents. You don't necessarily have to use brute force, and violence in order to accomplish your means. But, however, if you do like that kind of in-your-face, combat-oriented type of stuff, then you can totally try to pursue that route, and it may or may not work for you. You've got two different units that you control. You have your land units, and you have your naval units, and these work differently and help you and benefit you in different ways. This game has a lot going on for it. I haven't even played it with any expansions, but I've heard good things about most of their expansions. It's a really, really good game. And this is my number 16 game